Hi, I'm Maggie Harding with the Swirlydoos Kit Club design team, and today I'm going to alter this delightful Prima Birdhouse so that it holds a photo of some of my favorite people. It is that time of year when many of us are thinking about gift giving, and this makes a great gift. The birdhouse is available along with a lot of other fun alterable projects in the Swirlydoos boutique. Okay, so let's get started. Take the birdhouse and turn it over and gently pry up the tabs on the back. A slotted screwdriver works really well for this. Do be careful because those tabs will break off pretty easily. Remove the back and trace it onto whatever paper you select for the back of the birdhouse. I'm using Kaiser Craft's Rustic Harmony piece that came in the November kit. After cutting out the back, ink the edges, and then glue the paper to the metal birdhouse back. Be sure to smooth it out well. A brayer works really good for that. If you don't have a brayer, you can take like a bone folder or something like that and rub it against there to smooth it. Now let's prepare some of the different elements that I'm going to use on my birdhouse. The November kit included a Prima butterfly stamp, and I've stamped that onto a scrap of paper. Then I cut that out and painted the wings with crystalline eyes ink and then outlined the wings with crystal stickles. Okay, now let's work on a circle frame from Creative Embellishments. I'm going to heat emboss the frame, but first I'm going to paint it with white gesso so that the background underneath the embossing powder is white. Now that the gesso is dry, let's emboss the frame. When I emboss something like chipboard, I use a dab-on embossing ink, and I usually do 2 coats. I'm using Ranger Antiquities Frosted Crystal Embossing Powder. The effect of this frosted crystal embossing is subtle, and it doesn't show up that well on the camera, but it's just a frosty, sparkly look. Now I'm going to add some Prima glass beads that came in the October kit. I'm using Glossy Accents as glue because it dries clear. So randomly apply some glue to the frame and then sprinkle with the beads. I lay a piece of wax paper over the beads and give them a good press into the glue. Then you set it aside and let it dry. After the beads are dry, I go back over the beads again and add more glossy accents so that the beads are really secure and don't fall off. Okay, time to put this together. Put the back that you earlier covered with paper in place and gently bend the tabs over to hold the back. I've printed my picture at 4 inches wide and it's 3 inches high, and I printed it on 4x6 paper. I've left the borders on the side and the bottom, and these will hold my picture in place. You'll see what I mean. Now take a clear drying glue and put glue along the edges of the photograph. Then gently bend the photo so that you can place it inside the birdhouse. Make sure the edges are resting in the back corners and on the bottom of the birdhouse. You might need to hold the photo in place for a moment. I love how this makes the picture stand out from the back of the birdhouse. I think if it were flat against the back, the photo would be shadowed too much by the sides. I want to use the Kaiser Craft roses that came in the November kit, but I'm going to alter them a little bit by dabbling on some white paint along the edges of the petals. Then I'm going to take some crystal stickles and just spread a little bit along. This will make these look a little bit more like the Prima vines that I'm going to use. While the stickles is drying, let's put the circle frame in place. Just dab a little glue on and adhere to your photo, being sure that the frame is not covering anyone's face. The birdhouse is really pretty as is, but I wanted it to be a little whiter, so I brushed some white gesso on the roof and on the front. Then I thought a crackled look would be really great, so then I painted the sides and parts of the front with white crackle paint. If you do use crackle paint, be sure to put on a thick coat, let it air dry, and then you'll have a nice crackled effect. Don't use your heat gun. Now comes the really fun part, adding all the flowers. I'm using a couple of different vines. This first one is Prima from the Divine Collection. You want to bend your flowers and vines so that you're filling the void space above the photo. The vines work really well for this because you can manipulate the wire. I've die cut some leafy vines and I'm inking them to more closely resemble the color of the leaves of my other vines. I'm brushing some white paint on the leaf tips and adding a little crystal stickles. After you've done that, bend the petals inward so that they look more like real leaves. I'm gluing the die-cut vines onto the sides of the birdhouse to give an overall effect of a floral garden. Begin filling in the bottom of the birdhouse with flowers, leaves, and any other embellishments that you have that might work. I still have a pack of those Prima bird's nests from a couple of years ago, and they look great nestled down there at the bottom. Oh, I almost forgot. After the crackle paint dries, you need to go over the paint with Distress ink and rub it into the cracks so that the crackle effect really shows up. Now I'm gluing the blue fern chippy seasonal wildflowers that came in the November kit to the right side. I used a Prima chalk edger in Old Road to color the stems, and I used Ranger weathered white antiquities embossing powder on the flower part. I'm also using a new vine from Prima. It's called Winthrop. You can get these from the Swirlydoos boutique, and they come in several colors. They are really gorgeous. This particular one is topaz. Now, when you glue the flowers at the bottom, be sure that your birdhouse sits flat on your table, because if you have the flowers down too low, it'll push the birdhouse up. Continue layering in flowers and greenery around the sides and bottoms until you're satisfied with your look. Now I'm adding a couple flowers that came in the November flower add-on. These are Prima Manhattan flowers, and the color is Midtown. For the top, let's add the other piece from the Winthrop vine along with the seam binding ribbon. And there you have it. I love how it looks. It'd make a great gift for anyone, although this gift is for me. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it.